Good morning, everyone. I'm Barbara Boyer. I'm the Executive Director at AgeWise Colorado, and we're going to get started. I am going to share my screen and give you a little bit of other information. Here we go. So this is the third in our series. Can everyone see my screen? Brian, give me a head nod because I can just see you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
we're
you. This is the third in our series about home modifications to help you age in place. And we are AgeWise Colorado, presenting this in cooperation with the Division of Housing, which is out of the Department of Local Affairs. These are our speakers today, though Brian, who is on the webinar, is not speaking, but I have to publicly thank Brian for helping me and inspiring me, actually, to get this whole series put together. Yeah, I think it's been extraordinarily helpful to our viewers. We ask that you mute yourself, that you turn your camera off. It always helps with the presentations. If you would please put your questions in the chat, we appreciate that. And this is being recorded, so if for any reason you had to leave early or you know someone who can benefit from viewing this, it will be on our website. It usually takes 4 or 5 days to get the editing done and get it posted. Just so you know, we are a nonprofit. We love volunteers. We always are asking, and it's usually things that you can do in your own home without leaving, and any donations are gratefully accepted. We are here to navigate the aging journey with you, and you being caregivers of older adults, and the providers that are out there providing services to you when you need them. We have our website. We vet all our providers, so you know that they're trustworthy. This gives you some information on how you can get back into the website if for some reason you got there by chance. And with that, I am going to stop sharing. And Mickey, we're going to start off with you. And the stage is all yours. Thank you. But you have to unmute, Mickey.
Working on it.
There you go.
All right, wonderful. Welcome everybody. This is the third webinar. Like Barbara just explained, our first segment, Brian talked about the different types of resources and support that are available to help you with your home modification project. And in the second segment, Kim walked you through the different types of modifications that a person might have done to their home, and the benefits of having a professional help you make those assessments, make sure your needs are being met. And I noticed, Barbara, that copies of these recordings were emailed out. Links to the recordings are in this week's AgeWise newsletter that was emailed out. Today we're going to talk about construction. And I'll start off talking about the types of work that you might have done, and then give you some things to consider about your plan, consider as you plan your project. Then Naomi, who is our housing rehabilitation accessibility specialist with the Division of Housing, will talk to you about soliciting a reputable contractor and the red flags that you may run into, obtaining bids, construction contracts, licensing, permitting, and zoning, how to avoid a home mod disaster. My name is Mickey, and I'm the home mod inspector for the Division of Housing. And I want to explain that I am not a code inspector. I inspect home modification projects for the Division of Housing, ensuring that the projects were completed and that the specifications set by Medicaid and the Division of Housing were adhered to. I'd like to share things that people have shared with me that they wish they'd have thought of before starting their projects. And I have my own home mod experiences as well, having a disabled husband and mother at home. The first thing we do, first thing I'd like to point out is really take a look at the recording from 2 weeks ago on OT considerations, where Kim did a wonderful job. She explained the many possibilities that are available to make your home more accessible to you. It's all about the quality of life, and creating a space where your loved ones can not just function, but thrive. You need to know the areas of your home and how you function in those rooms. This is important. For instance, in your bathroom, how easy is it for you to lift your leg over the tub? And in the kitchen, can you reach the dishes up in the cupboards or load and empty the dishwasher easily? Can you easily move laundry from one appliance to the other? Are your doors wide enough? The average walker and wheelchair is just under 36 inches, but a lot of older homes, their doorways are 28 to 32 inches. Are you having to take that walker and go sideways to get into the bathroom and scoot that way? Or leave it outside and surf across the sink to get to the toilet or the shower? Stairwells. What is your balance and strength and stamina? And garages. Can you use the house door in your garage, or do you have to go outside and around to access it? Entrances and exits and emergency exits. Do you have a second way out of your home that you are able to use on your own? You need to be honest with yourself. And again, take a look at the presentation from 2 weeks ago. It's full of all kinds of information to help and ideas to help. You need to think long-term when you're doing a home modification. Most people want to stay in their home. And if you're spending money to make these changes, then make them ones that you will see, that'll see you clear into the next stages of your life. And consult an occupational therapist who can help you prioritize your needs. Lots of things to consider. You've thought about a home modification project, and you've consulted with an occupational therapist who has helped you discover where you most need to modify your home. This section is going to cover some basic guidelines and things for you to consider when doing your home modification. First, residential building code is a set of regulations that govern the design, construction, and modification of homes in the jurisdiction. Violating these regulations can result in fines and penalties, and requirements can vary from city to city and county to county. This section covers some basic guidelines for you to consider when doing that home modification. In other words, check with your building department. Make sure you don't need a permit. Make sure you're following the guidelines. As Naomi will explain in this segment, most plumbing and electrical projects require a licensed professional. So let's get into, if you're going in and out of a building, the first thing you need is a landing. You've decided that you need to put in a ramp or easy steps. The first consideration should be landings. Landings are found directly outside your door and at every turn on the ramp. You should have a solid landing point at the bottom of your ramp and landing as well. The average landing for these areas is usually around 5'5" or larger. It may seem large, but consider the actions that take place on these landings. It's not just for the benefit of the emergency medical teams trying to get a gurney around that corner. Starting at the top landing, a person needs to be able to open their door, get around their screen door, lock and unlock their door, and lock or unlock their door and open and close that door. You need enough room to be able to move around this area without having to step off the landing or put yourself on the slope of a ramp, which can be really hazardous. I will talk quite a bit about ramps because that's where I get the most questions and I see the most problems, ramps and bathrooms. Slopes on ramps should be gradual enough for you to travel easily. 1 to 12 is the ADA requirement for commercial buildings. This is 1 foot of ramp for every 1 inch of rise. So if you have a 30-inch porch to your door, that means you're going to need at least a 30-foot ramp. I understand that some building departments allow as steep as a 2 to 12 slope, but take into consideration the strength and stamina of the person who needs the ramp to use the ramp most in your household, and also the strength of the person that might be helping them. A 1 to 12 ramp can be hard enough to roll or walk up. I have a ramp in my house that is a little steeper than a 1 to 12, and it is really hard to roll someone in a wheelchair up that ramp or to control their rate of descent going down, to keep them from just freewheeling right down that ramp. So you want it to be a safe slope, and 1 to 12 tends to be, it is the commercial rate that they have, and it's a decent slope. And there are quite a few people that I've met that have even less of an incline going into their home. And it's a nice, easy, gentle way into the house. So consider what your abilities are. And consider if you have, stamina issues, or it's hard to walk uphill, consider having a place, an extra landing halfway up, or someplace for you to rest or to sit and take a break from that incline. Make sure that the slope is easy enough to travel safely. Ramps can be made out of many materials. Aluminum ramping is faster to install. Concrete is very durable. Wood decking is pretty, but you need to remember that it needs to be weatherproof regularly, and the flat surfaces on it will need weatherproofing probably almost annually. Composite decking is a nice alternative to wood. There's a lot less maintenance on them. But remember, some brands of composite decking, can be really slick when they're wet. You want to avoid plywood outside. Even exterior grade plywood will swell up and deteriorate in wet weather rather quickly. Make sure that composite and wood ramps have some sort of grip coating. Those strips that they sell in the hardware stores are nice, but they have to be replaced pretty regularly. There are exterior paints with fine aggregates added into them that can provide a good grip for safer footing. A transition plate at the bottom will make mounting and dismounting the ramp a lot easier. And the ramp should land on a hard surface with room to turn around and access the driveway or sidewalk. And remember to leave enough room on that landing at the bottom to be able to get around, to open a car door and get around it without having to go onto, say, the grass or the rock. Railing, you want to make sure your railing has a good grip. Minimum clearance of 36 inches between handrails. Remember, that's the average width of your walker or your wheelchair. And if you are in a motorized chair, it can be even wider. So you want to check and make sure that when that deck is built, that there's going to be enough clearance between the handrails to make sure that you're going to be able to get up and down that ramp. You're going to want a curb rail if you do a ramp. Curb rails prevent the wheels from going off of the deck, and a midway rail will catch a hip or a leg if you lean and you fall into the railing. It'll help prevent you from falling through. And then we'll talk about doorways. Like I've mentioned several times, wheelchairs and walkers need, at least 36 inches or more. Not all doorways can be widened. For interior doors, you might want to consider a barn door or a pocket door. There's those bar double swing hinges that you can get that make it easier to get in and out of the door, or some of them have the ability to To gain a little extra space, you can always go with a swing back hinge. Flooring, there's several types of flooring. And they all have their benefits and their setbacks. Tile is beautiful, but remember, tile flooring can crack and break easier if you drop something heavy on it. And tile should have the grout cleaned thoroughly and resealed with a grout sealer every year. LVP is that luxury vinyl planking, the planking that looks like hardwood floors or tiles that you see in the hardware stores. If you choose LVP, luxury vinyl planking, or sheet vinyl, and you have a wheelchair or a motorized chair, then it's really recommended that you get the thicker products. It will prevent cracking, breaking, and wrinkling of the product. Carpet is great. If you have a motorized wheelchair, then you may need to restretch the carpet occasionally, as it'll tend to wrinkle. So bathrooms, non-slip flooring, obvious reasons. Stepping out of the shower onto the floor where there are fewer grab bars or no grab bars with wet feet can be dangerous. So you want some kind of non-slip flooring in there. We talked about tile maintenance already with tile floors, but it's the same thing with tile walls. There's maintenance for them, and they have to be, and you need to reseal the tile every year to prevent that grout from deteriorating. Toilet height. ADA toilet heights are great. They're taller, they're easier to get on and off of, but make sure that it's the right fit for you. Make sure that you are stable on a chair that height. Personally, I am shorter than average, and my feet don't touch the floor on an ADA toilet. I literally broke my foot last year standing up from one. So it's something to consider. Is it safe for you to mount or dismount? Electrical considerations. Bidets. If you get a cold water bidet, it doesn't always need power. But if you get one that has heat or an electrical outlet, heat or the lights or the heated seat, then you're going to need an electrical outlet by that toilet. Walk-in tubs will need a dedicated circuit. And if you get automatic faucets, then you need an outlet underneath the sink. Shower size. Things to consider on shower size. Is there an aid that needs to help bathe? Is the shower wide enough for that extra person to also be in the shower and be able to move around without having to step outside the shower and possibly flood the bathroom floor? Hand type. Is a walk-in or roll-in shower needed? Is a walk-in needed now, but you know that you're going to need a roll-in shower down the line? Shower pan grip. Make sure your shower pan has grip for sure footing. If you already have a shower pan that is slick or slippery, there are coating products out there that can be applied to give you more of an anti-slip grip when you're in that shower or bathtub. Counters and storage. Make sure you know the height of your sink that you need. Do you need a taller sink so you don't have to bend down? Or do you need a sink that you can sit at? I hear a lot of comments about counter space and storage. Consider everything that you do at that sink and counter. What items do you need to have on that counter? Is there going to be enough counter space for those things? Or are you just getting a walk-on sink? Where are you going to put your supplies? If you had a wheelchair accessible sink installed, where will you keep the items that you used to store in that cabinet? And if a closet is removed to create a larger door or as a way to expand the bathroom, where will you store those items that were in the closet when it's gone? And grab bars. backing, grab bars need to be securely mounted. Ensure that, you need to ensure that they can handle the intended weight, ensure that there is a solid backing in the wall, or use appropriate anchoring hardware. And make sure that hardware is intended for grab bars. This will help that, this particular type of hardware will help prevent the walls from bending or flexing or failing at the wrong moment. Some thinner fiberglass surrounds and fiberboard walls, such as the walls in older mobile homes, would definitely need blocking inside their walls for the extra support. And mounted shower curtains versus shower doors. Shower doors are wonderful. They help keep water inside the shower, from the shower heads and handheld showers. We all know those handheld showers can get a little crazy as to where they spray when we aren't paying attention. But glass can break, and if you choose a shower door, check that it is at least tempered, and a laminated tempered glass is even safer. If you decide to go with a shower curtain, it's advised that the curtain rod is permanently mounted. In every training I've ever attended, it is mentioned that when a person falls in the shower, the first thing they do is reach out and grab the shower curtain. And then the shower curtain and the rod comes down on top of them. So you want to have that rod mounted. Also, if the curtain is for a shower, a weighted shower curtain can help put that curtain in place properly. And lastly, I want to mention lifts. I love lifts. Stair lifts. We all know it's a chair that'll go between the two floors to help you ride up the stairs in comfort. They are battery operated. The battery charges when the chair is parked at one end or the other, and the charging end runs on a regular household outlet that the lift is plugged into. Vertical platforms, remember that they'll need to have a dedicated circuit. So, you may need to have that breaker box upgraded in order to handle the vertical platform, or an elevator. Most elevators need a mechanical room, and obviously more power. There are these wonderful new, not so new, but there are these wonderful elevators I've been looking at recently, and they are pneumatic elevators. They are based kind of like, the tubes at the bank, and they don't require a mechanical room. So that is a wonderful thing if you're short on space, but you need that, you decide you do need to go with that upgrade and get an elevator. Remember, call your local building department. Every building department is different. Every one of them has different rules to follow. So check with your building department on what rules and regulations are needed for your project. And a quick note about ADA. The American Disabilities Act of 1990, or ADA, is a civil rights law that prohibits discrimination based on a disability. Accessibility standards issued under the American Disability Act apply to places of public accommodation, commercial facilities, state and local government facilities, whenever there is new construction or additions and alterations. That means the ADA rule is for commercial buildings. It does not apply to your privately owned home. For instance, ADA requires all grab bars are placed at 33 to 36 inches above the finished floor. But in your home, the grab bar is placed at a height that is suitable for you. If you are 4 foot tall or 7 foot tall, the height you will need for that grab bar to be at in order to support you properly can vary greatly depending on you as an individual. So ADA rules are for commercial buildings. They are not for your private home. At this point, I want to pass the presentation off to Naomi, who will continue this presentation and share her expertise working with contractors and completing projects. Naomi.
Great, thank you, Vicki. Appreciate that. So we'll go ahead and just keep on going. Soliciting contractors, how to find a reputable contractor. Next slide, please. So basically just do your research. Word of mouth is great. If you've got friends or family that have already had work done and they were happy with the contractors that they worked with, if when you come across a company, research their history. How long have they been in business? They just start last month. Have they been in business for 20 years? They have a website. Look on that website. Look at their pictures. Look what they've done. You can also look at their reviews and get references. Always get references from the contractors that you are considering using, from their customers, to see what they have to say. And then you can also research that company with the Better Business Bureau. Not everyone registers with the Better Business Bureau, but if they have, they would have information about any complaints against that company, how long it took them to resolve those complaints. So these are all good ways to find a contractor that is going to be reputable. Excuse me, can you talk? Next slide, please. Some red flags to be aware of when you are working with someone is that if they offer you nothing in writing, they don't sign off on anything, they don't sign anything, they don't give you any information that's in writing. They ask for full payment up front. That is a really big red flag. You do not want to pay someone the entire amount of a project right up front. If there's lack of details in what they are providing you, whatever they do provide you that's in writing, is it clear? Is it detailed, or is it just real vague? Especially if they're describing the work that they're going to be doing. How much detail are they providing you? Do they mention getting licenses or having licenses, or using licensed subcontractors, using licensed electricians and plumbers? Do they talk about getting permits? If they're telling you that they don't need to get a permit, that somehow they're exempt from permits, or they're grandfathered in and they don't have to get a permit, that is a red flag. There's no such thing as being exempt or being grandfathered into any kind of a rule as far as getting permits. And then if you get, and I'd also recommend that you get more than just one bid, of course, and then compare those bids. Is this person's bid, is the cost vary greatly from the other ones? Even if it's really a low bid, maybe everybody else's bid are kind of all falling within the same range, give or take a few $1,000s, but this one person's bid is really, really low. It could be very tempting to go with that lower bid. But I would caution you against that, because if everybody else's bids are kind of, pretty comparable, why is this one so low? Is it because they don't know what they're doing? They don't know the full scope of work that it's going to, require? Are they going to come back and get you with a lot of change orders to where you end up even paying more than had you chosen someone that had a more higher bid? And again, the same thing with bids that are extremely high. Why is this person's bid so much higher than all the other ones? And again, if they have questionable references, once you get a reference and maybe there's some negative feedback, I would consider maybe not using that particular contractor. Okay, next slide, please. So when you get a bid from a contractor, what does a good bid look like? Be sure that there is a very clear description of the work that's going to be done. So if you're going to have a bathtub torn out and an accessible shower put in, and all their bid says is install new shower, you need to ask for more details. What exactly are they going to do to give you that new shower? The bid should be broken down into costs, material costs and labor costs, and also a description of the materials that they're going to be using. Maybe in your mind, you're thinking that they're going to put tile, but the contractor comes back and he puts up, some FRP, which is a very inexpensive kind of lower quality material. So be sure that you know what materials they're going to be putting in, what colors they are, etc. And then again, just compare those bids to other bids. Don't just get one bid. Try and get at least 3, if you can, and that way you can, you can compare them to, and making sure that they're all bidding on the same thing. Also, if one person's bidding on a walk-in tub and someone's bidding on a walk-in shower, those aren't comparable bids. So be sure that everyone is providing you with a comparable bid. Okay, next slide, please. And continue with what a good bid looks like. They should be giving you drawings and pictures or blueprints or something to show you on paper what they're going to do, especially if they're going to be moving fixtures, if they're going to be relocating a toilet, if they're going to be taking down a wall, maybe opening up a wall to put in a door. These need to be on paper and show you this is where we're going to move the toilet with dimensions so that you have an understanding of what they're going to do. If there's a signature or there should be a signature section on that bid. So once you have reviewed it, everyone signs off on it, that everyone understands what work is going to be done. Those bids should include licensing and permitting fees, or have mentioned that the plumbing work is going to be completed by a licensed plumber, electrical work will be done by a licensed electrician, and then what permits they're going to be getting from their local jurisdiction. And then what if there's a change order? That should be defined somewhere on the, maybe not the specific change order, but whenever you get one, it needs to be clearly defined as to why they're giving you a change order. And was this not already included in the original bid that they provided you? And then if they're going to charge you project management fees, are these fees reasonable? Typically a smaller company, with one or 2 people in it, or maybe that, it's kind of that kind of a size company, they're not really going to charge you management fees. These typically come into play when you're dealing with a more larger company, or maybe like a national chain company. But if those fees are more than 15% of your overall project costs, I would question as to why they're so high. Next slide, please. Please do get a contract. This is not the same thing as a bid. A bid tells you how they're going to do the work. The contract explains how they're going to implement the whole construction project. So these contracts need to include a payment schedule. Again, stay away from someone that wants you to pay them up front for everything. Be sure that you understand the payment schedule. Is it a deposit? And then as they complete work, are you making weekly payments? Is it halfway through the project and you pay half? Just be sure that you understand what that payment schedule is like, that there's timelines included in your contract that also include inspections. Like maybe they're going to have an interim inspection whenever they get through with XYZ. They'll have an inspection. If they're getting permits, the local jurisdiction will come and inspect off of those permits, but just for the permit information only. So if they're getting a permit to relocate a toilet, that's what that code inspector will come inspect. He or she will inspect relocating the toilet. They're not going to inspect if they widen the door correctly, because that's not part of that particular permit. So be sure that if your contractor is getting permits, that he's getting, those inspections done also. What are the responsibilities of the contractor? Be sure that's in your contract. Exclusions. What work is the contractor going to do, or what's excluded? Sometimes contractors will go in there and they'll remodel a bathroom, and they'll put in their bid or in their contract, this does not include painting, this does not include refinishing the ceiling, things like that. Again, be sure there's a signature section on that contract, that you've all reviewed the contract together, everybody understands it, and you sign off on it. That how change orders are going to be handled, that's explained in that contract as well. And then if for some reason there's disagreements that you can't come to terms with, that there is a dispute resolution process in that contract as well. What are you going to do if you and the contractor don't agree about something? Okay, next slide. Licensing, permitting, and zoning. So next slide, please. So there's typically 2 types of licenses that a remodeling contractor can have. One allows them to do work in single-family homes. And again, each jurisdiction is going to determine what their requirements are going to be in order to provide that type of a license for a residential or remodeling contractor. And then there's commercial licenses. These are licenses that a contractor would have if they're going to do work on a condo, on an apartment building, a townhome, maybe a fourplex. I don't think a duplex, but typically it's going to be four or more properties, like a fourplex or something larger, that they consider to be commercial, and that contractor would need to have that particular license. And again, each jurisdiction is different. They will determine what those requirements are. So be sure that if you live in a condo, if you live in an apartment or a townhome, that your contractor has the correct licenses to do the type of work that you want them to do, that the local jurisdiction has provided that for them. And next slide, please. And then there's different types of permits. If you're having gas lines removed or installed, you're having your AC worked on, the furnace relocated or a new condenser put in, you're relocating plumbing, you're installing new plumbing. This type of work is going to most of the time require a plumbing or mechanical permit. So if you're doing this kind of work, be sure the contractor is getting these permits. If they're not, ask why. Electrical work also, if they're going to install a new panel or they're going to upgrade the electrical panel, if they're going to install new wiring, if they're relocating fixtures or moving a light from one part of the room to another, they're installing a new fan or new lighting, these things typically are going to require a permit as well. Building and structural permits would include anything like if they're going to widen a door and they've got to put in a new header for that door. Framing, maybe they're going to build, they're going to do an addition to make maybe the bathroom larger. They're tearing down walls, they're putting in new windows, roofing. These things are going to require either a building or a structural permit. Okay, next slide. The contractor is responsible for getting these permits. This goes back to your construction contract. What is the contractor responsible for? This should be in the contract that they're going to get all of the required permits. That's their responsibility. They would need to go to the local department, building department, whether it's the city or the county, depends on where your property is located. They will go to that department, that building department, to get the required permits. Some of the smaller towns and some of the rural counties don't have a building department per se, and they don't do their own electrical or plumbing permitting. That doesn't mean that your contractor doesn't need to get one of those permits. It just means that he or she needs to go to DORA, which is the Department of Regulatory Agencies. That's another state agency, to get those permits. So again, red flag, if they're telling you that you don't need a permit and you're doing some extensive work, I would really follow up and find out why they're telling you that. Zoning, this comes into play when your contractor does go get a permit. If you're doing something on the exterior, for the most part, this is when this is going to come into play. You're adding on to your home, you're building a ramp, you're putting in a longer sidewalk. Are these things going to impede upon the public right of way? Are they going to impede onto an easement? Are you talking about, being into somebody else's property line? So be sure that your contractor is checking up on this. And again, when they go get the permit, the permitting office will also tell them, oh, you need to go to the zoning department and get this taken care of as well. But again, that's just following up with the contractor, making sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Next slide, please. And then how to avoid a home mod disaster. I'm sure you've heard horror stories of contractors coming in and just totally, messing up somebody's home. So next slide, please. Oversight and communication is very, very important. So I would have intermediate inspections, even above and beyond those that are going to be required by the permits that are obtained. You could do the inspections. Once a contractor tells you, hey, we finished putting in the accessible sink, go and check it out yourself. Go with the contractor and have him explain to you what they did and how they did it. Take a look at it, make sure it works fine, turn the faucet on, do all these things. So be involved. I have found that if you're present and the contractor and the subcontractors and the crews know that you, the homeowner, are going to be present, they tend to do a better job. So just be sure that you're overviewing what's going on. And then keep the communication lines open. Know what your contractor's phone number is. know who the subs are, how to contact that plumber, how to contact an electrician if something goes wrong. If they go and they relocated your toilet at 4:30 in the afternoon on a Friday, and then it just starts to leak uncontrollably, Friday night, who are you going to call? So be sure that you have open communication and you have all your contact information as well. And then always ask questions. Just ask if you don't understand why they had to put in a different type of tile than what was agreed upon, or they come back to you now and they're telling you something else. Ask questions. Always ask questions to be sure that you are understanding what is going on with your project. Okay, next slide, please. And then dispute resolution. So if for some reason there is a disagreement that you cannot resolve on your own, always refer back to the bid, and then always refer back to your contract. What do those documents say? That's why it's very important that you have a very clearly written, detailed bid, because maybe you can't agree on the color of tile. You go back to the bid and it just says install tile. Well, there's no documentation that you wanted red tile and the contractor meant blue tile. So be sure that you go back to your bid and then go back to your contract. You can also ask an unbiased third party to step in and give their opinion about what's being done. I wouldn't ask your best friend, because they're probably going to side with you, and the contractor, shouldn't be asking their best friend because they're going to side with the contractor. So if there's a way to get an unbiased third party involved, that could help as well. And then you can get third-party inspections. These are inspections outside of what the building inspector is going to do. You would have to pay for these inspections, but you could also ask for a third-party inspection. Next slide, please. Other considerations. I mean, it's kind of hard to come up with every scenario that can happen when you're, doing a home, especially a home remodeling project. Again, I would just emphasize just being present and making sure everyone knows that you are involved in that project, and get everything in writing. Everything needs to be in writing. Take pictures, video, anything like that. Document what's involved with your project. Okay, next slide. So just real briefly, I know that in the prior two presentations, the home modification tax credit was explained in greater detail. I'm just going to very briefly give you kind of the high points of this particular program. The next slide, please. So it is a tax credit program that the Division of Housing oversees. So if you have any questions about it or want to put in an application, you could go to the website, and like I said in the previous presentations, it's much more detailed about how to access this particular program. But it is good for 8 years from the project completion date. It is an income tax credit for up to $5,000 that's available to each household member. It's a non-refundable tax credit. And next slide, please. You would have to be a Colorado State taxpayer, either be the applicant or the dependent, meet the household income limits, have documented disabilities, demonstrate the need, how your disability relates to the home mod. And then if you are renting, you would need to have landlord approval because they're going to be working on that home, or homeowner approval as well. And we're here for you. If you have any questions about the home mod tax credit, there's again, previous presentations, way more detail about how you can access this really great program.
Naomi, if
Yes,
I
ma'am.
can ask you one quick question, there's
Sure.
no other questions in the chat box. All of these are pretty major projects. If you're doing something simple like putting up handrails, you don't need to go through all these processes, right?
Probably not. No, I mean, to put up a handrail, you wouldn't need to get a permit for it. You wouldn't need a license, electrician or plumber. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that.
No,
Thank
that's
you so
a good point to make. Yes.
Thank you so much. And with that, we'll turn it over to Katie from Brothers Redevelopment. Kathy, I'm sorry. I called you
Oh.
Katie.
That's okay. No problem. I like Katie.
Okay.
All right. Let me share my slide here. Okay. So my name is Kathy McMichael. I am the Senior Administrator for the Home Modification and Repair Program with Brothers Redevelopment. I really appreciate the invitation. We are definitely happy to be here to provide more information about what we do. So I'm just going to give you a really quick overview. We have a lot of different programs. Obviously we have the home modification repair program. I'll get into more detail about that in just a few minutes. We also have a paint-a-thon program. So this is a volunteer run program that runs from April through October every year. And we work with, like large banks and agencies, nonprofits, lots of different groups that get together and they paint homes of clients. You do have to be a senior or have a disability. It's been a very popular program. And a lot of our cities and counties that we partner with have been starting to cover the cost of that, which has been very helpful. We also run a property management division. We've been running this program since the 80s. We build, own, and manage several apartment complexes in the Denver metro area. I think we are at 15 complexes right now. And these properties are all geared towards low-income seniors, families. We have multiple, different types of properties. We also have a brain injury apartment complex, which opened in Aurora a couple of years ago. Actually, I'm sorry, Colfax. But they're, scattered all over the Denver metro area. We are hoping to move into the Colorado Springs area. We currently manage what's called Greenway Flats. So this is a apartment complex in Colorado Springs for people who are experiencing homelessness. Another large program that we have is Colorado Housing Connects. So this is a statewide call center with housing navigators. We help with everything from rent and mortgage assistance. We focus on foreclosure and eviction prevention. We do landlord-tenant mediation. We help people find housing, provide utility assistance, you name it. We can, provide them resources for legal assistance. Anything related to housing kind of funnels through. And then another program that we have is our Aging in Place program. So we have service coordinators that work with seniors and help them. They identify the benefits that they may qualify for. So for instance, long-term care Medicaid, Medicare Savings Program, they will actually help them apply for these services. And so that brings us to our home modification and repair program. We were the first program that started in 1971 when the nonprofit started. So our nonprofit was started by a group of pastors who, with group of volunteers, would do minor home repairs around the Denver metro area. Over time, it started to grow, and we started getting funding to cover these repairs from different sources. And we've just, been growing. We right now have programs from Firestone all the way down to Colorado Springs. We are in talks right now with Longmont and Erie. And ultimately our goal is to, to just keep moving. There's a huge need in this state. We're looking at the Pueblo area, and maybe even further south. So that is definitely our goal, to help as many people as we can. We do focus primarily on homeowners. At times we can help some renters, depending on the program. As far as our scope of services, there's a wide variety of repairs and modifications that we can assist with. It just depends on the program and the level of funding that's available per household. Overall, we can help with emergencies such as sewer line repair, electrical, plumbing. We can install water heaters, furnaces. We can help with roof, any kind of damage, a lot of, roof. We do a lot of roof repairs, especially down here in Colorado Springs. We get a lot of hail. Any kind of aging home repairs we can typically assist with, especially with our larger programs. But we do focus a lot on accessibility. We do wheelchair ramps. We can do platform steps, stair lifts. We do bathroom modifications, tub to walk and shower conversions, that sort of thing. ADA toilets, flooring. We can take out carpeting and put in flooring for somebody who's in a wheelchair or uses a walker, or if it's just in general, the flooring is bad and it's a trip health and safety hazard. So we can help them with that. Just a really wide range, of services. But that's really, the gist of it, that's really what we primarily focus on. As far as our contractors, it is a stringent, requirement process. We make sure that they are licensed, insured, they are registered with SAM.gov. We do CBI, criminal background checks, for all of our subcontractors, just to ensure the safety of all of our homeowners. So we, not only work with a lot of seniors, but we do work with younger people if they meet the criteria. So a lot of young families, for instance, a lot of veterans. There's just a wide variety of folks that we can help through our programs. So our biggest programs that we oversee is through Community Development Block Grant funding. This is HUD federal funding. So we have to abide by, their guidelines. We do environmental reviews that have to be signed off and approved by our partners. Some of our bigger programs are Arvada, Broomfield, Firestone. Broomfield and Firestone, we can go up to $20,000 in home repair services, which really is helpful when you're looking at sewer line repairs or a furnace, because we all know that's very expensive. The City of Colorado Springs and El Paso County, these are the two programs that I oversee. The Colorado Springs program is our largest and most successful program. We have been running it. We started out in 2015 as a subcontractor doing emergency repairs. And in 2018, we took over both programs just because of the need. They are at a lower income limit as far as requirements at 50% AMI, but there's still a huge need even with the lower income criteria. Commerce, excuse me, Commerce City is another long-term partner of ours. Westminster, Thornton was our very first program that we started working with. I think it's been, gosh, at least 15 years that we've been working with them, if not longer. We have other pots of money available through Housing Authority or general funds, such as the City of Arvada. We have Sheridan. There's a lot of folks in the Sheridan area. It's a lower cap per household, but we can, definitely do some accessibility, minor repairs. A lot of folks that live in mobile homes in that area that may not necessarily qualify for any other resources. We have a caretaker program for folks that don't qualify. It's a private funding source that we can use. Our capable program we started 2 years ago. So this is Community Aging in Place, Advancing Better Living for Elders. This is a program started by Johns Hopkins School of Nursing in 2009. And it's been very successful. We just ran a 2-year program through HICPUF Medicaid. And we are now running a program in Colorado Springs again through the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging. We also have a program running up in Denver through funding from Key Bank. So we are very grateful to keep that running because the focus really is to keep people safe in their home. It focuses on fall prevention, helping seniors perform their ADLs with less pain, discomfort. It's been very successful. And then, of course, we have our Dr. Cog program. That is the Denver Area Agency on Aging. We also have a program through Boulder and, of course, Pikes Peak, Colorado Springs. And then our most recent program is the Adams County Human Services Minor Home Repair Program. This is not HUD federal funding, so we don't have to abide by the environmental reviews, the guidelines. There's not as much of a wait, a holdup to start services, and it is capped at $20,000 per household. So this has been very beneficial. It's been a very popular program. It's up and running. We're very happy to have it. And then, of course, we have our Medicaid programs. We are a Medicaid subcontractor for the Denver metro area. And I know we've worked with Naomi for quite a few years now. So, yeah, if there's any questions, if somebody is interested in home repairs or certainly a modification, they can reach out to us. You can go online, brothersredevelopment.org, and you will find all of our contact information. You can also call our main number, which is through the Colorado Housing Connects hotline, and choose the right option to reach me in Colorado Springs or my coworkers in Denver. So that is it in a nutshell. If anybody has any questions, please let me know.
I don't see any in the chat, Kathy. Thank you so much. And everyone, Brothers Redevelopment is on our website. You can always connect there. The same with the Division of Housing. If you have any questions, we'll do our best to direct you to the right place. And with that, I'll just put it out there one more time. I know we're a minute over, but does anyone want to ask anything? Going once, twice, third time. Thank you all so much for joining us. Again, this has been recorded. We'll get it up on the website. I know that an hour's time is not a lot, so you may want to watch it again to get some more details. And we appreciate your time. Have a great afternoon on this beautiful day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.